don't analyze your motives endlessly and try to defend against what was being said about you. And I took out a lot of, I reined myself in at a lot of points where I wanted to say, and this was so unfair, because I didn't either, I didn't do that. I mean, I got a hold of a document that, I was part of a group that was insisting, faculty, students, and staff, that was insisting that the events be seen on the spectrum of violence against women. And I was meeting with enormous resistance from other areas in the college, and I got a hold of a friend leaked me some notes from the president's advisory council meeting where this was all discussed. And I and my group were referred to as well-meaning, highly respected people who are out to advance their own agenda. And it was exactly like being slapped in the face. It just felt awful. And I knew I wanted to include the stuff. The guy had given me permission to include it. It illustrated exactly what the tensions were. But boy, did I want to write back to that. And I think I probably did, and then went, delete, delete, delete.
Still there.
I hope that a little bit.
I've read a few novels lately, and they're novels, but they are written about real people. They just didn't know enough. There was a lot of surmising. And how do you see that genre, which is really fiction, but it has a historical perspective, and not just the history, but real characters? Is that related to what you're talking about as creative nonfiction, or?
Grace Paley always said that when she didn't quite know what was going on, she would slip into fiction. That fiction is a terrain. It's a sort of safe for when Kathy has a story and she knows what she's referring. That's one thing. Or Gail knows of this moves, details of this and that we know. But if you're just out there looking around, or maybe you're talking with your friend and thinking, how does this work? I think that Grace's notion that you slip into fiction is pretty interesting. And sometimes, the minute you start, you put a word on a page, you're already in metaphor. It's a very sticky terrain. But there are some things that are very clearly connected to the fiction.
I really think that that's historical fiction. I don't think it has much to do with nonfiction, except that there are some people. It's a Civil War novel and Abraham Lincoln walks in, or it's.
Well, I'm thinking of particularly of there are two fairly new books about the Salem witch trials, about a real person who was hung as a witch, but there was a great deal of surmising of what her life was, and then her daughter in another book, the same events. So they were real historical events, and real historical people were described, but in much more detail than what one could possibly know.
That's historical fiction.
That's historical fiction.
And I'm thinking of things like Clara and Mr. Tiffany and Loving Frank, or kind of that type of book.
American White. That's an interesting one. It's about Laura Bush. And of course, it's fiction, but you don't care because you're so sure Curtis Sittenfeld got it all 100%. Have you guys read that? Yeah, American White.
But it's not said
It's Laura Bush. I mean, in the
No,
book,
they
it's not
changed the
Laura
name.
Bush.
Real clear. And you feel like you've been
Primary
every
colors
question.
is my complete understanding of Bill and Lori. Only the movie now.
This question is for anyone who would like to answer on the panel. How would you handle this this situation? If someone tells you their story and then you proceed to write it, but the person's age, she's close to 90, and she's forgotten a lot of details, but the story is true. How would you handle that? Would you develop scenes yourself, and she's also uneducated, so she can't explain?
So she'll tell us more, so she's come to you to write for her?
Well, I was led to her to write the story. And she's never told the story before, but she's telling it to me. And she's a survivor of DACA.
She's never written it down in letters or
No,
any kind
she's
of-
uneducated, and she's forgotten a lot of details, but yet certain things she remembers.
Has she told that story in earlier times? I mean,
No.
people were younger.
No, she's never told the story to anyone. So how would you handle that? Would you make up your own scenes? I mean,
No. I don't make anything up when I do nonfiction. I'm really strict about that.
well, how do you describe, how would you describe a certain area you would, if you, research
I
that?
think that's some research.
So you
You
could,
really would have to do serious research on that, however, the canvas.
Or you could do what Sam Clements did, hold it for 100 years.
Right.
No, that's what he did.
Well, first you gotta
That's
have
just
something to
been,
hold.
What you're saying is that the story's slipping away. My stepmother was in that situation. She was in England and was well. And those stories she told when I was young were quite big, but anymore they're not. So that's why I wonder if there are other people who've heard the story.
Well, I think also the Holocaust Museum in Washington could be of help. They have tremendous resources.
Maybe also big records.
They're working feverishly to preserve survivor stories because that generation is going to be gone. And they have many of them on videotape and all kinds of. So for background, that's the first place I go.
There are local stories too.
Yeah.
They're big.
But I have done, when I've been writing nonfiction about somebody else's story, I often use this technique. I can imagine her doing the following, but making it really, really clear that this is me imagining. This is not a scene that I know happened. It's my subjectivity is present and interacting with hers and imagining her. I think that's permissible.
It'd be interesting to write a story too about the loss of memory and what that pattern that's in her mind. Because I watched my father live in 90s, and some things are very deep and true and rich, and then other places like Swiss cheese, other places just were not there. I mean, if you wanted to write a story about that, it has a pattern of remembering it.
because it has affected her life, here in the United States. And it's affected, the whole experience has affected the way she raised her children, too. So that's part of it.
Well, I wanted to go back to, I think it was when you were talking about, you talked about the people who actually made, like the guy who was on Oprah and had actually made up this memoir, this story. What do you think leads people to do that when there's so many true stories out there that is so fascinating that they could write about? What leads a person just to make something up like that?
I think they think they're not going to get caught, that nobody else knows, and they don't, apparently they're not aware of all the things before them, all the people who do get caught. It's like, who's going to know? I'll just change this one little thing and then they get caught.
There's so much out there that they could, true stuff that they could actually do.
You take the truth be enough.
Yeah.
I think it's an extension, I want to get dangerous here, I think it's an extension of that tendency we all have to elaborate the story when we tell it, to make it a little more dramatic and make somebody angrier than they were, and make yourself more innocent than you actually were. And if you don't watch it in self-representation, it's going to turn into James Fry. He was the guy who was outed on books.
it's interesting, I think, was it Kathy who wrote about, or spoke of Novi? Yeah. About the time you're talking about, Novi there was a Ford plant there, and I think it made, it was a very large and new Ford plant, and which gave them a lot of tax money. And so I imagine that figured into it. The reason I know about it is I was living in Lansing at the time, and I was working for state government, and I'd have to go to Detroit once or twice a week. And you drive by and you saw the plant, and but I knew of that township, or the township I think it
It's
was.
the village of Wixom, right? They,
Yeah.
they were the one that got the taxes.
And right up the hill, opposite the lake, what's the name of the?
Wall Lake.
Wall Lake, was a big landfill. And they had mined gravel and sand out of it and were backfilling it with garbage, really rubbish. And they see those big earth movers working up there. And it became one of the things of between the folks who were driving that regularly. Jimmy Hoff is buried up there somewhere. It would have been a story.
One more question.
I want to know, do you know whatever happened to that teacher?
Oh, he's fired.
I mean, do you know what his life is like now?
Since
or-
then, no. No, I do not.
I want to thank Gail, Catherine, and Kathy for their wonderful answering our questions and for their wonderful